All right, Dad, we reported on this story a couple weeks ago, but it's making some major headlines. General Motors, GM, is attaching a mandatory $1,500 subscription to their vehicles. You cannot opt out of a $1,500 subscription when you buy certain General Motors products. What the heck is going on, Dad?
Well, I guess General Motors, in all their fine thinking, decided that since nobody wanted to renew their OnStar after their free trial ended, I believe the take rate's probably somewhere between 5 and 10% of all people that had it for free end up doing it again. So rather than not be able to collect money for OnStar, they're making it mandatory in Buicks, GMC pickup trucks, and the new Cadillac Escalade. $1,500 buys you a 3-year subscription to OnStar, whether you want it or not.
There's a difference between buying something, Dad, and being forced into something. A perfect example here, Dad, is when you go on the GM website, you go on the Buick website, let's say you go to buy a 2022 base Buick Encore GX. The list price of that vehicle, Dad, is $25,595. That includes your $1,200 freight charge, which we can do a whole other video on what the heck those actually mean. When you actually select that trim, though, Dad, the price jumps up to $27,095 with no explanation. So your list price is $25,595. Then when you actually select the vehicle, your base price jumps up to $27,995. That's not buying something, Dad. That's being forced, shoved, manipulated, matriculated. Take over.
Well, I think it's being disingenuous on GM's part, is what it is. It is listed, the OnStar is listed as a separate line item on the Monroney label of the vehicle. And you can't, when you go to like the Buick website and you want to build a vehicle, well, you can't build it without it. It's not really optional. It's required. Now, the spokespeople for GM say, well, this creates additional value for the customer. Well, no, value is when you allow the customer to decide whether or not they want it. It's not a value for the customer when you force them to pay $1,500 for something they didn't even opt in for.
And what do you make of it, Dad? So it's not part of the MSRP. So the future value of this vehicle, when it's a used vehicle, is not going to be inflated relative to what the MSRP was. You're buying a subscription. Well, you're being forced to buy a subscription. So what value does that even have associated with the vehicle? This would be like, what's an equivalent here? What's an analogy? I don't even know if I could think of one, because it's essentially increasing the MSRP, but there isn't actually an associated consummate value increase.
Well, here, I think the best example would be does that $1,500 impact the value of the vehicle as a used car? It was a $1,500 option that has zero value when a dealer or anybody else is looking at it as a used car. It's not a value add. For instance, it's similar to the navigation system in cars. In a lot of cars, they charge $2,000 for that. Well, 3 years later, that $2,000 option, okay, is worth maybe $300. The reason for it? Cell phones. Okay? GPS is built into every cell phone. Maps are built into every cell phone. So even though you got charged $2,000 for it, it has no value. It doesn't add value to the car as a used car. A dealer isn't going to look at a 2023 Buick Encore and go, oh, yeah, it's worth $1,000 more as a used car because it's got OnStar that nobody wants. Doesn't work like that.
This is the equivalent of the dealer addendum labels where or a market adjustment. You're no longer just paying a $1,500 market adjustment to the dealer. You're now paying a $1,500 market adjustment to General Motors corporate. And Dad, I got to ask you, how does this fly? Like, and I mean that especially in the light of the FTC's new proposed rules for car dealers or the CFPB, or why can't a single organization stand up here and say, this is false advertising. This is bait and switch, because that's exactly what it is. I mean, now there's a lot of press around it, so consumers are aware of it, but that's what this is. The website listed at one price, but you can't take the option off. Come on now.
Well, if they wanted to do it correctly, they would just raise the price of the vehicle $1,500 and bake it into the base price, and not put it as a separate line item on the Monroney label, and that way nobody would have known. Okay, that way you could say, hey, OnStar comes with the car. A 3-year subscription of OnStar comes with the car. It's not, and you don't realize you're being charged for it that way. Now, I guess some people would say, well, there's transparency here because General Motors is at least telling you that you're paying $1,500 for it. But they're not giving you the option to opt out. If you didn't want it, it doesn't matter. You're still paying the $1,500.
To your point, though, Dad, we've actually seen this already happen. What I mean is, and we talked about it a second ago, and I wasn't going to get into it, but let's get into it. Freight charges, destination charges. I feel like, and Edmunds actually did an analysis, destination fees have risen 12% or rose 12% from 2017 to 2021. Some particular brands, for example, Honda and Hyundai and Ford, 23% increases, 23% increase, 29% increase. GM's average increase in destination fees up 21% during that period of time, and they've gone up even more since. Destination fees have traditionally been the place where automakers just make extra money. Like, we're not increasing the MSRP, but we are, because the destination fees going up. And there's currently a lawsuit against General Motors about their destination fees and how they've been increasing them, and how consumers weren't aware that this is just a profit center for the manufacturer. So I think we're seeing another creative way to essentially just pad the pockets of automakers, Dad.
Well, you've heard me say it in the past that those in the automotive industry are really a creative bunch. Okay, they can find ways to make money that we didn't realize existed, and the transportation charges on new vehicles is one way. It's kind of like if you sold on eBay and the price was whatever the price is plus the shipping charges. Well, everybody on eBay increases the cost of the shipping charges to make extra profit. And so that's what the freight charges have become. And for Buick and GMC and for the Cadillac Escalade, the $1,500 for the OnStar is just a way for them to increase the profit in the vehicle to the manufacturer. So once again, as in the way we do things best here in America, the consumer gets screwed.
Okay, and we are equal opportunity consumer advocates. We're coming after you, Ticketmaster, next. We're coming after you, Airbnb and travel websites. Man, the fees that they... Honestly, across the board, Dad, how refreshing would it be if the price was actually the price? But again, the big news here, the big distinction here is, imagine going to Ticketmaster, buying those tickets, and being forced to sign up to some sort of prolonged subscription service that you did not want associated with the tickets you were purchasing, but you didn't have an option. Put all the fees aside, that's essentially what's happening here with GM and their decision to add a mandatory 3-year OnStar subscription. I got to ask you, Dad, I know we've never been a family that's had GM products, but I'm curious, and I'm asking for comments here as well in the chat, or in the video. How easy is it to actually cancel OnStar? Like, that is also a question I have, because I'm thinking about SiriusXM, Dad. It's a total pain in the butt to cancel your SiriusXM, and they're hounding you day after day after day to renew. 3 years from now, when everyone's free but they paid for it OnStar subscription comes due, I just wonder how easy it's going to be to cancel that if you don't want it to renew. It's a lot to think about. We'll be here 3 years from now to comment on it, I'm sure.
I would think we'll be here, yes, absolutely. And we'll have new things to talk about from GM, I'm certain.